All right, we're recording. Hi, everybody. My name is Eva Marie Everson. I am the director of Florida Christian Writers Conference, and this is
Karen Suiters. And I'm the co-director.
And this is American Idol. No.
Right.
So, Taryn, what do you do for us at Florida Christian Writers Conference?
I do whatever you tell me to do.
This is also true. This is why we had to get rid of Mark. Yeah, he wouldn't do whatever I told him to do. No, we did not get rid of Mark. Mark had to leave us, and you are the obvious person to step into his shoes, so to speak. But hey, before we talk about the continuing classes at this year's Florida Christian Writers Conference, there is something I want to talk to you about because you are a children's book writer. I wanted to talk to you about the fact that the literary world lost Beverly Cleary this past week.
Yes. And oh my goodness, at the age of 104.
4 years old. Can you believe that?
It was unbelievable. I grew up loving all of her books. The Ramona series I read over and over and over again. And just because I had at that point an annoying sister.
Oh, the annoying sister. Yes.
She probably thought the same of me. Although it wasn't an older sister. Yes, a twin sister. So so I felt like I could really relate to Ramona in many, many ways. But she was just a magnificent author, and yes, definitely a loss.
Yeah. And I read that she had said that, she had stopped writing just a few years ago because you have to know when to quit. Oh my, what does that mean? Just a few years ago, and you have to know when to quit. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just really impressed, and especially when you consider as a writer, all of the changes in technology that she probably saw in that career, expansive career that she has. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I saw a photo of her in her younger years, sitting in front of an old-fashioned typewriter, which would have been the new thing for her at that time. But yes, I mean, she just went through so much, like you said, she saw technology changing through the years. But also, I was looking at a more recent photo of her, and she just still had that sparkle about her, and I really love that. But wow, what a loss! It really is a loss for the literary world. But on that note, we have up and coming new literary geniuses that we know are going to be at the Florida Christian Writers Conference. But what we have at FCWC is, as most conferences do, we have a set of continuing classes because we do have the 1 hour workshops, or really they're at 50 minutes, but we call them the 1 hour workshops. But we have the continuing classes that all together are a total of about 8 hours. And of course, they're focused in on one subject. So tell us, Taryn, if you will, something about the continuing classes we're going to offer this year.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to start, I guess we can kind of continue our conversation with Kids Lit. And our first continuing class that I think we should talk about is the one that is focused on children's literature, and that is going to be taught by Leslie Santamaria.
Yeah, Leslie joined us last year. We've had Michelle Medlock Adams for years, and of course, she's a brilliant children's book writer. She's just a brilliant writer. She writes a variety of things. I think maybe the only thing she hasn't touched on is adult fiction at this point. But Michelle had a family emergency last year. And so at the very last minute, we called Leslie, who happens to be a good friend of ours as well. And Leslie did a superior job. Now, you actually do some work with Leslie in a critique group, do you not?
I do. I'm part of a critique group that has Leslie, and she's been involved with Word Weavers for years and years and years, which is where we first met. But then we're also part of SCBWI, and that group's been meeting for, since 2012. So we're going on 8 years.
Yeah.
Is that right? 8 years. I used to teach math. I should know this. And she
once did math. So yeah.
That's right. She not only is she an amazing writer, she's also an editor, and she is also part of the Spalding MFA program.
Wow.
Which is Masters of Fine Arts. And so she is rocking that and just doing an excellent job. So you are in for a real treat if you're considering, gosh, what does it take to write for kids? I'm really curious about this. This is a wonderful opportunity for you just to dive deeper into that and to give it a go.
She is a part of our Kids Let, which is the day before conference officially starts. It's all day on Wednesday, so she will be there for that. But then she will teach the 8 hours of the continuing class. And Leslie is also on my editing team. I have a team of editors. When people come to me with their work and they want editing done, if I don't do a particular type of editing, then I have someone who does. And Leslie is on my team. And I have to tell you, everybody who has worked with her has just thanked me, to the moon and back for putting them with her. She's a very virtuous woman and a great children's book writer. So we're very lucky to have her. Who else do we
have? We have Diane Mills, who's going to be teaching our fiction track.
Yeah, and Diane and I go way, way back. And of course, Diane has won a gabillion. She is a marvelous writer of fiction, especially suspense. And I think maybe in the romantic suspense or mystery suspense line. She is an amazing researcher as well. If she wants to know what the FBI do in a certain situation, well, she just tags along with the FBI for a while. If she wants to know what the local police will do, she gets on the phone and calls them and says, hey, can I do a ride along? Can I go into your offices? Can I see what's what? And so her work is quite authentic. So I think she is really going to bring a lot to the table at FCWC this year. I'm excited that she's coming. I've wanted to have Diane for years and everything just lined up this year. So really excited about Diane.
And she is spunky and she is a great teacher and y'all love her. You'll love her.
She's a ton of spunk and about a size 2. So
yeah. What she lacks in height, she makes up for in skill. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, she's amazing. And one of the most wonderful hearts. She truly has a heart for God, but a heart for people as well. And if you get to know her personally, you will know that for sure. So what else do we have, Ms. Taryn?
We have a continuing class on writing devotions, and that is going to be taught by Karen Whiting.
Karen Whiting is another one who has a lot of experience in writing for children, but she also has a tremendous amount of experience in writing nonfiction and devotionals. And so we have asked her to come back this year. She came years ago. I think it was the very first year that Word Weavers took over. So that would have been 2013. And we've asked her to come back. We're excited that she's going to be here, kind of bring another fresh face to FCWC. It's nice to kind of mix things up every so often. We love our regulars, but we also like to have some people come in who have this great skill, and Karen certainly does. And she has a little saying. Her last name is Whiting, and she'll say, when you think of writing, think of Whiting. And so I always think of that whenever we say her name.
That's right. Well, speaking of kind of having our regulars, but then also mixing things up a bit, we have a regular, Michelle Medlock Adams, but instead of teaching children's, she's going to be teaching our nonfiction track.
She is. She is back. Family crisis averted. I don't know that it was a crisis. I'm thinking maybe was somebody having a baby? I can't remember.
No. Bear was having surgery. I thought.
Bear was having surgery. Okay, so I was right. Crisis averted.
That's right.
Her grandson, Bear, was having surgery last year, but praise God, he's doing very well. And she is going to come back this year and teach our nonfiction track. So like I said, sometimes we just want to mix things up a little bit. Michelle has written, I don't know how many books. A lot of them are children's books, and a lot of them are also nonfiction books. She's award-winning in both areas. She's fun. She's vivacious. She is going to take you to the next level when it comes to writing nonfiction books.
I think, if I remember correctly, she has over 90 books published, and well over 1 million copies sold. I mean, very prolific, just ball of energy, usually has chocolate.
Yes.
Hotsteller doesn't steal it. So her class is going to be amazing. So if you're curious about nonfiction, you definitely need to stop into that continuing class.
You know, speaking of Bob Hotsteller, you really have to watch him because he will steal the chocolate, but he will also take your phone and do a selfie. And you have to really watch him. So be careful asking him to take a picture of you and somebody else, because he will actually take a photo of
himself.
Yeah.
He's nothing but trouble.
Yes.
We also have on our back this year, another just sweet, precious woman is Lori Hatcher. Yes. And she is going to be teaching our speakers track.
Yeah. So last year she was the nonfiction teacher and everybody loved her. I just, you know, hands down, they just went crazy for her. And we have had Carol Kent for the last 2 years leading the speaker track. So we thought, okay, let's mix it up just a little bit. I happen to know that, well, first of all, I know that Lori is a phenomenal speaker, but I also know that she's like high up there in Toastmasters. So she definitely has the skills and the knowledge to teach the speaker track. Now, remember that as a writer, sometimes writing and speaking go together like a hand in a glove, I've always heard it said. So this is important for those of you who already have like, okay, I already know what I need to know about writing, but how am I going to take what I know and put it on literally a platform and become a speaker that people will not only want to listen to, but then they will want to purchase my books after they've heard me speak. So Lori Hatcher is an excellent one for that.
And I would say that this goes across all genres. As a children's writer, I can tell you that I speak all the time at schools. And so if you're like, well, I write for kids, I really don't need to take a speaker's track, you couldn't be more wrong. In fact, kids writers, being able to go into schools is an amazing way to supplement your income. Hopefully that can actually happen next year where we can go into schools. But if you're not sure, you know, or if you're uncomfortable speaking in front of people, go to this class, because I'm sure Lori's going to have some great tips for you.
Oh, absolutely. And I will say I spoke at a school with Taryn and with Michelle just a few years ago.
Right.
And Michelle had the little ones, and then Taryn had the middle grade, and then I had the high schoolers. And Michelle and I had the opportunity to slip in and watch Taryn speak. And she's right. I mean, she was totally engaging these kids. And that is learned. That is, you know, you've got to have the ability to do it first, you know, first and foremost. But what she brought to the table, what Taryn was bringing to the table, that's a learned art. And so she took what I gave her and she perfected it. And I mean, we were fascinated and we were adults. So
well, thank you for saying that. That was a fun night. I remember that.
What's next?
Well, we have Edie Nelson next, and she will be handling the spiritual track.
Yes. You know, Edie and I are actually leading a week-long spiritual retreat in August at Ridgecrest. Now, several years ago, I you know, Edie is the director of I was at Florida Christian Writers Mountains Christian Writers Conference with Diane Mills as her co-director. But I had gone through a spiritual journey like none other, and I always taught the fiction track at Blue Ridge. And I said to Edie, can I teach not fiction this year, but I'd actually like to start a spiritual track. And she thought it was a great idea. And so then I later on watched Edie going through her own spiritual metamorphosis, if you will, this change. And she wrote a book called Soul Care. And so I said to her last year, you know, Edie, we've often had you come in and talk about social media and all that, because she is a brainiac when it comes to all this.
She's a whiz.
Yeah, she's a whiz. But what I really need for you to do this year is possibly do a spiritual track for the Florida conference. And she was thrilled to do that. It went over extremely well. We've asked her to come back again. Let me just say this. There are times in your journey as a writer when you just have to stop. You need to feed your soul and take care of yourself and kind of get back to why God brought you where he brought you in the first place and why God laid this talent in you. and what is it that he wants from you with this talent. The problem is that as writers, we often are the ones pouring out into others' lives. We're pouring out through our words on paper. Then we go and we speak at conferences, and we're pouring out and we're pouring out and we're pouring out. And if we have enough credentials, then we're pouring out on to new writers. And we forget to take care of ourselves spiritually, especially. And so that is where Edie is coming in. It's so critical. And so if you're in that spot where you go, you know what, I already know how to write what I write, and I already have the speaker thing going here, but I just need somebody to tell me how to do all of this and make sure that spiritually I don't end up like, the driest, most arid desert.
Yeah, burned out.
Yeah, totally burned out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like a writer's revival. It's a really, really great thing. And I know as writers, oftentimes we think, well, gosh, if I have time to sit down and read a book for enjoyment myself, or to dive into a Bible study, then I have time to write. I should be writing. And we tend to ignore our soul care. And I think this is going to be an amazing class. Those of you who have taken this in the past, you know how awesome it is. So that'll be very exciting. And then,
it's so true. It's so, if you're sitting down and you're working and your stomach starts to rumble, and I'm hungry, but let me just write a couple more pages. And then let me just look up one more thing. And then pretty soon your hands are shaking because your blood sugar has dropped, because you should have stopped to feed yourself, and that's exactly what it is spiritually as well. We get that rumbling, and in our spirits, like, okay, feed me, spend time with the Lord, spend time, whatever it is, spend time in prayer. And we ignore it. Oh, let me just do one more thing, because I'm doing this for God, so I'm just going to do this one more thing. And pretty soon we're tapped out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we have one final class to talk about, and that is the critique class. And that is led by, it's a two-person, it's a team. It is Shelley Arnold and it is Jan Powell.
That's correct. So let's talk about why this even happened in the first place. We are the director and co-director of the conference, but we are also the president and the vice president of Word Weavers International. And Word Weavers International is a critique organization. We're all about critiquing and about education and about iron sharpening iron. So years ago, when we took over Florida Christian Writers Conference, Shelley came to us and said, why don't we have a critique, continuing class? Why can't we bring, more than 1,500 words, which is what we bring to the monthly meetings? Why can't we bring more than that and just get in there together, dig in there together? And I said, that's a great idea, Shelley. You're now in charge of it. So
that'll teach you to make a suggestion.
Yeah, exactly. And, that's kind of how online groups got started. Shelley was in a fiction writers group that had broken off from Word Weavers Orlando. And then she moved to Ohio. And we were like, oh, we don't want to lose her. So we started Skyping her in. And, you can do that with one. You can't do that with a whole lot. But we started Skyping her in. And then I got to thinking, well, if we can Skype in one person, why couldn't we Skype in, like, say, 6 people and have online groups? And Mark and I were talking about it. Bruce Brady walked in while we were talking about it at the Florida conference. And he started kind of throwing out his 2 cents. Well, you could do this and you could do that. And I looked at Bruce and I said, how would you like to run this thing? And Bruce ran it until he went home to be with the Lord. And then his sidekick, Susan Simpson, took over. So be very careful about putting ideas in front of me, good ideas. But Shelley has since, I think she started doing this 2014.
Yeah.
They only take, what, 10? I think so. I think 10 or 12. Yeah.
No, because they are 11. Yeah. They take 10.
They take 10. And then they divide those up, 5 and 5.
Yep.
And I mean, it's intensive. They are going for hours, and, you bring your work in, and when you walk out, whoo, you have learned something. I mean, every year we hear, if I did nothing when I came to the Florida conference, but this, this was worth it. So we are excited that we'll be offering that again. Remember, once we get everything up at the website, which we're going to talk about real quickly, but once we get everything up at the website and you can register, if that is something you want to do, you better jump on it quickly, because they are full like that every single year. So let's talk about, very briefly, let's talk about the issue with the registration and the website and all that, because Taryn, you are handling that.
I think I'm handling it. So we are the form, or the platform that we used to use, I should say, to register for the Florida Christian Writers Conference has been, it's been processed up. It's been upgraded to a whole new system, and we were grandfathered in for a while. And now the company is saying, okay, those of you who are grandfathered in, now you really do need to go to this new 4.0 version. And so I worked with them last week on transferring over all of our stuff. And we are hoping by April 1st that we can have it all up and running. I'm actually in contact with them now. We've been sending emails this morning. So I'm hoping, honestly, within the next few days, we can get back with you guys and say, hey, FCWC is open for registration.
Yeah. And we've gotten a lot up at the website, so you can go and see what the schedule looks like and those kinds of things. We don't have all of our faculty or stuff like that up yet, but we do at least have the prices and all of that, at least you'll say, okay, now I know what I'm looking at, and you can kind of decide what you want to do. We especially, again, want to remind you that Kids Lit, you can come in on Tuesday night, or you can come in first thing Wednesday morning, but it's all day Wednesday. And then we go into FCWC. So that's our report for this week. We thank you so much for joining us, and we'll have more for you next week, hopefully with a registration button.
That's right. That's the goal.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, have a wonderful week. And of course, this is our holiest week of the year, and we want to wish you a happy Easter or a happy Resurrection Day come Sunday. Bye for now.